Hi and welcome to the third part of this Blender 2.8 beginners tutorial. So let's go ahead and open up Blender and we'll go to this alien text 3 and we'll go to file, save as, and let's save it as version 4. We're going to do some more work here. So we'll save it as version 4 and we'll just go to the render view here so we can see what the final render looks like, right? And in our last tutorial, in the first tutorial, we made this sort of mountain type scene. In the second tutorial, we flew through it like this with the camera, and then it's going to get to this end point here. And now we need to decide what we're going to do here. And I had a couple of ideas. I'm not quite sure what I want to do, but we'll have a little experiment and see what works. So what we'll do is press number 7 on our keyboard. Number 7. That takes us into the top view. And we're going to hide this background for the minute, so we'll press the I button, or this I option here. That just hides this sphere, so we can see this little scene that we've got here at the back here. And we'll take our 3D cursor and we'll place it in the middle here. So click on 3D cursor here, and we're going to put it in the center point, roughly around the center. In fact, it can be, yeah, center is good. Let's put it around here, and we want to zoom into this point here. So we'll hold down the control key and use the mouse wheel, hold down the mouse wheel middle button to pan down, and then we can zoom in towards this section here. And we want to create, I'm not quite sure, really at the end in the other video, let's have a quick look. In the original one that we did, what I did, where these particles and this water and this alien thing coming out, right? But I want it to be a bit more dynamic in this one. Let's make something, let's improve, right? Whenever we do something, we'll try and make it better. So let's press, I think what we'll do is press Shift A and we'll insert a plane object, right? So we've got this plane, it's quite small here. And we're going to scale it on the width first. So that will be on the X axis. So let's press S and then X. And we're going to scale it out wider. Something like this. I think something like this will be good. And then we're going to scale it on the height. So we press S and then Y and scale it out on the height here. And then let's press 0 on our keyboard so that we can see what the camera sees. We can't really see that object, so let's click the move tool and drag it up, and we can just see roughly, you know, what is it covering here. And we really want to move that, we want to make this actually wider, right? So let's press number 7 again, and I think what we need to do is make it at least as wide to like here and here. So we can just drag it to the side a little bit, and then we want to make it wider. So we want to scale it on the X axis. So S to scale and then X and scale it out wider. So it's almost touching the edges here. Can you see, like it's almost touching this edge and this edge here, but not quite touching it, like this. Then if we press 0 again, we'll see that it's covering the whole width of this camera. That's what we want. Then we'll press, in fact, what we'll do is we'll press the letter N. Where is this? Where is this plane, right? Let's call this, we'll call it ground end, ground start, ground end. Let's call this ground animation 1. So we're going to call it ground animation 1. Then we'll press the letter N, and we want to lock the camera to this ground animation 1 here. So whenever we rotate now, if we middle mouse click and rotate, we're going to rotate around this ground object. That's what we want. We just want to rotate around this ground object. And we can zoom out a little bit and see it a bit better now. And I think we're going to make this a little bit wider. So we're going to press S and then Y, and then scale it on the height a little bit more as well. Something like this. So we're just filling out this space. Your one might have to be a bit different, yeah? You can see it from here how much space it is. The camera's down here somewhere. And you just want to fill out a gap like this. Your one might not quite fit like this. It might be a bit not as wide, not as tall. But you want to have something similar to this. Then we're going to go to press number 7. So we see it from the top. We'll go into edit mode. And then we'll go into the edge and subdivide it. So we've got 2. So we've done it once, subdivide once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5, and I think 6 will be enough. 6 times, yeah? Then press the letter A twice. That unselects everything. we can zoom out a little bit more, and then we want to click on the vertices, right? So we want to hold down the shift key, and what we want to do is click these ones in the background like here. But what we don't want is to click on any in the center point here. So we want to leave a gap around here. Can you see, like, we've got this going around the edge, but we left the middle point here. So let's middle mouse click and rotate, and we'll zoom in a little bit here. And then we'll use the same tools as we did before. So enable here for the proportional editing, and we'll set it to random. And then we're going to press the letter G to grab them. So G to grab, and then Z, and we're going to raise them, and we're going to rotate our mouse wheel. Let's see, we want to make the circle smaller, right? We don't want it as big. Let's see, we're going to do something wrong here, I think. Yeah, this isn't going to quite work. So let's press escape. We can't really select these ones here too close to the edge, because when we do G and then Z, it's creating these like I mean, we can check it. So if we were to click here, for example, if we were to confirm this, I don't think I'm going to, but let's confirm it. Then press 0. Let's just press F12. I think we kind of got away with it. I'm not sure that we're doing this the way that I want it to be. You don't really see these ones on the side, so they're not too important. It's the ones in the background, but they're, for me, they're too the same, too much of the same, right? They're too uniformed. So what we would do is press Ctrl Z. That will undo that. Let's just go back to edit mode, object mode, and then go back into edit mode. And let's press the letter A to select everything, and then press A twice to unselect, yeah? And we can press N for the minute to close this. And what we want to do is only select a handful of these, because we're going to create a few of these and then animate them separately, and we want them to be a bit random. So what we'll do, we don't really need to concern ourselves too much around the side here, because the camera won't really see any of that. That's like all the way off the side here. If we zoom out, we're not really bothered about anything around here or around here. It's really what the camera is going to see towards the center of this object, right? So if we press the letter, but it's worth doing some around the edges as well in case we rotate the camera. So we press number 7. What we'll do is select them closer inwards, right? So this one here, let's zoom out so you can see it a bit easier. We'll click this one and this one, maybe this one here, this and this. So I'm going to select a lot less this time around. Then we'll middle mouse click and rotate around. We'll press G to grab and then Z, and we'll pull them up. And we've got a handful here. And we don't want them to be too tall, something like this. Not as tall as the ones in the background, right? So let's press 0. And our camera can see this one and this one at the moment. But if we did rotate, it would see the other ones as well. I'm not sure if we're going to do any rotation. But for now, that's okay. That's actually okay. I quite like that. So we'll do edit and then go back to object mode. And then what we want to do, let's see. Let's try one thing. I haven't really tried this before, but let's press Control. So we want to click on this ground animation, press Control D to duplicate it. So we've got 2 of them. Let's hide the number 1 and let's call this number 2. Then we're going to go back into edit mode, and our vertices are still selected. Can you see? The ones that we selected before. And what we'll do is, I'm not sure how to do this. Let's press G to grab them, then Z, and then let's see. I think we can just grow these ones, right? In fact, we're not going to do it this way. I don't like this way. So let's go back into object mode, and this ground animation 2, we're going to delete it. Let's click on the first one and go to its, let's have a look here, the object data. So we just want to reference it, so it's 66, 19. So let's call it, it's almost like 67 and 19, right? So what we'll do is press Shift A, insert a plane, and we'll set the Y to 66, and then set the X to 66 and the Y to 19. So this object will be very similar to the same size as this ground animation one here. Let's just double click this, copy this name, and then paste it here and call it 2. And then we'll go back into the edit mode for this object, and we need to really drag it up a little bit, right? We can't really see it too well. So let's go back into object mode, click here and drag it above the floor a little bit, just so that we can see it a bit better from the top. Let's just see how it's lining up. Let's turn this one on. I think that's going to be fine. Yeah, that should be good. Then what we'll do is just drag this to the side a little bit. So we're dragging ground animation 2 to the side, and then we'll go into the edit mode and go to the edge select and subdivide once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. I think we do it 5 times now, not 6, we'll do it 5 times. It's going to be slightly different. We'll press the letter A twice, and this time we'll select something more towards the center. So something around here, here, and like around here. Now these objects, or these vertices, we'll middle mouse click and rotate around. We'll press G to grab and then Z, and we'll pull these ones up, but we'll rotate the mouse wheel. We'll make this, basically this circle, we're going to make it smaller, much smaller, something like this. I'm going to make these a bit taller. Then we'll go back into object mode and we'll turn this one on. Then we can see that we've got 2 different sets now, right? That we can animate individually. So if we press 0, we kind of see what they're going to look like. Really, we want these flat to the ground, so let's set the Z to 0 on this one, and then click on this one and set the Z to 0 here as well. So now they're flat on the ground, and now we need to just give them the same material that this floor, this original floor had, right? Or the ground start and end. So we click on, I've spelled this wrong, haven't I? G-R-O-U-N-D, ground. And we'll paste that here. So let's look at the material, and it's set to material 1. So we'll click on this ground animation and then click here and select material 1. Now you can see it's got that same material, and we'll click number 2 and we'll select material 1 for this one as well. Now if we press F12, we'll see that we can have these objects animating into the scene, right? So let's animate them now. So on frame, if we scrub through here, it's going to get to this point. So let's go to frame 420. We'll hit the record button and we'll click on ground animation 1, and we're just going to drag it so that it's underneath the floor here, so that we can't actually see it anymore. And then click on ground animation 2 and drag that one down so that it's out of the scene. If we press F12, we won't see them now, and then we'll actually move to like frame, let's say about, so it's 30 frames a second, right? So 420, that'll be 450, would be 1 second. So let's move to around 450. And then on ground 2, so we've got a choice now. Do we move ground 1 or 2 first? So let's move ground 1 first, just because it's called ground 1. And we'll move it up to, it'll be good to see the object data here, right? Where's the object data gone? This one here, because you can see how far it is away from touching the surface here. We don't really want it to touch the surface, so we want to set it to something like here. Mine's at minus 0.8. Then we'll click on ground 2, and ground 2 we want to have this moving out a bit more slower, so we set it to like 480 frame, and we'll drag this and we'll have it, and it depends on how high you want them to be, right? I don't want them to be too high, I want them to be like here, let's say around here, something like this. So as we fly through here, you'll see the camera will start to slow down and these will start to grow up from the ground. But on ground 1, we want to drag this back, so that actually starts happening before the camera gets to this place. So we'll untick this record button and we'll drag this to around frame 380. So as the camera is flying over, let's see, that's still a bit slow, right? So let's move this to frame 340 and we'll move this back to frame, let's say around here, 399. Let's make it 400. Frame 400. So let's right click. So as the camera flies over here, this ground will already be showing before the camera finishes, and that's what we want. We want it to be a bit dynamic, right? Then the camera stops and then this one pops out afterwards, which is a bit iffy as well. So let's go to ground animation 2, and the other one was set to 380, right? Let's just check it. 340 was the first frame, around 340. Let's just click here and see. It's on 341. Let's just set it to 340. We don't want them to be animating on exactly the same. So 340 and 400, that's what we've got to remember for ground 1. So we'll click on ground 2 and we want to set this one to like 3, somewhere around here. It doesn't really matter too much. And then 340, right? So we want it to end a little bit after. So let's say 360. So if we turn off the display outlines and all that stuff, let's turn off the overlays. And we can zoom in with our mouse wheel. This is really what the render is going to look like, right? And we should turn back on our background. So we've got our background back again. Maybe we did something wrong here. Let's have a look. So that is, something went wrong here, because these ones are not showing here, right? We had 2 sets. Well, actually, maybe they are. That's okay. Okay. See, they are coming out from here, but they're really hard to see because it's kind of just, they're very similar colors, right? So I think we need to change the colors of these objects, these grounds. They can't be exactly the same as what all the other materials were because they look too similar. So what we'll do is, let's have a look. We'll click on ground animation and go to its material here, and let's see here. Let's have a quick look. So what we do is click the minus button here. So we'll click ground 1 animation, click the minus button, and then we'll click the new material for it, and we'll set the transmission all the way up, and we'll bring the roughness down to around 1.7, something like this, and we'll set the base color to a slightly different color. Let's make it like a purple, and then we can click on ground animation 2, this one, and we will, let's go up here, remove that material, click new material, turn up the transmission and reduce the roughness. You can reduce the roughness as much as you like, you can play around with this, right? And we'll set that to a maybe like a darker sort of purple. Now these should stick out a bit more in the animation, right? These ones in the middle, they look a bit too uniform for me, so we want to try and fix that really. Or maybe we just leave it. I think I know what I'm going to do. So on this ground animation 2, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to do this anyway. So I'm going to click back on the overlay. I'm going to hit the record button. And on this last frame, I'm going to drag these right down. So they're quite small. They're going to be like little small ones, right? That show out. So these ones on the side will show and these ones will show. Then we want to do something a bit more dynamic here. So what we'll do, let's hit the record button. Let's press number 7. And we'll get rid of the background, just hide it for now. So we can see our scene. And we're going to press Shift A and insert another plane. And we want to just scale this a little bit. So let's just zoom in here. Let's go to its object data and we'll set it to 10 by 10. In fact, we'll set it by 5 by 5. So set it to 5 by 5. It's going to be pretty small object like this. Then we will we need to drag it up a little bit, right? So on the z-axis, let's just raise it so we can see it, right? So raise it above the floor, so we'll move it up above the floor. Then we'll go into the edit mode and we're going to subdivide this into probably, let's subdivide, let me do that again. So we'll subdivide it once, twice, I think, yeah, twice should be enough. Twice should be enough. Then we'll press A twice, select the middle vertice, so the one that's right in the center, just that one. I'm going to select that one only. Then go to the, let's see, go to the proportional editing, select enable, then we do random. We'll press G to grab it, G to grab, and then Z, and we'll raise this out like this. Let's press escape. Let's zoom out a little bit here so we can see it from this sort of angle. In fact, really we should see it from the camera. We should be looking at this from the camera. So we'll press G to grab it and then Z, and we can really see how tall it's going to be. And then you can rotate your mouse wheel to change its shape and stuff and do all this stuff to it. Right, I want it to be something like this. Really, for me that's too thick, right? So to thin it out, I think what we'll do is press escape. We'll go back to the top here, press A to select everything, and then we'll subdivide it again. Let's just subdivide it again. So we've got these smaller squares. We'll press A twice to unselect everything, and we'll click again on the middle vertice. We'll scrub to here. We'll press 0 to see the camera view. We'll press G to grab it and Z, and then we can get these taller, sharper ones, right? And we want something quite thin like this. This will be pretty good. Yeah, something like this I think will be good. Then we'll click on, in fact, we'll go to object mode. Let's just drag it over here somewhere. Then we'll press Shift D to duplicate it and drag another one across. We probably want like 4 or 5. Let's make 5 of these. So Shift D to duplicate. So we've got 2 of them. This is 3. Drag it across. Shift D to duplicate. That will be 4 of them. and I think Shift D to duplicate, and then we'll drag this one over here somewhere. So what, we've got 5, right? Should have 5 or 4. And we've got here 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's call these shards, yeah? So we've got shard, that will be shard 2. This first one will be shard 1. It's called shard 1. Let's copy this shard 1 text, and then this one is called shard 2. So we've got shard 1, shard 2, this will be shard 3. This one here will be shard 4. This one here will be shard 5. Okay, so in theory, shard 1, let's just drag this over here. Let's drag that one to the end. That's shard 2, that's shard 3, that's 4, and that's 5. So let's click on 1. 1 we'll leave as it is. 2 we'll click on it. Press the tab key to go into edit mode, and we want to press G to grab this vertice, and we're probably going to, let's see, there's a couple of ways to do this actually. Let's press G to grab it and make it a bit taller. So we're just grabbing it, and just we can use the Z actually to grab it and make it taller. So let me do that again. So I've clicked on this one, shard 2, I hit the tab key. That top point vertex is already selected from when we did the edit. So all I'm going to do is press G and then Z, and then just grow it up a bit taller. Then on this one, so we'll hit the tab key again to go into object mode, click on this one, press G to grab it, and then press Z, and we'll shrink, let's see, we need to go into edit mode, then press G to grab it, then Z. Yeah, then make this one a little bit smaller. We'll press tab to go back into object mode, click on this one, press tab, press G, then Z, and we'll grow this one out a little bit, and this one will probably grow a little bit as well. And actually we're going to shrink this one, so press tab, then click on this one, press tab, press G to grab it, then Z, and we'll shrink this one down a bit. So we'll make them a bit random in size, and then we'll press tab again. So we've got these objects here. Let's work with this middle one first, and we want to animate these, right? So let's see what's going on here. We'll get to the camera point around here. Let's click on ground 2. So ground 2 ends at frame 460. So let's move to around 420. And we'll hit the record button, and we'll click on shard 1. And actually not shard 1, we want shard 3, the middle one. And we're just going to drag this down here. And then we're going to move to like only a few frames, so about half a second, 15 frames. So 435, that's half a second, 435. Then we want to click, let's zoom out a little bit here, drag it upwards to here, not all the way, you want it to be, you want the base to be under the floor, right? So we'll drag this one up, we'll click on this one, we'll untick the record button for a second, we're going to press R to rotate it, so press R and then rotate it on the, let's see, what axis do we want? We want, this is X, that's Y, so Z axis, so press R then Z, no, R then X, no, so it's R, Y, and we're going to rotate it this way, so it's at an angle, like this. Then we'll drag that one down a little bit here, Let's zoom out a little bit here. So that was frame 420. So you can move it, see it's moving quite fast. 420 to 435. So on 430, frame 430, we'll hit the record button and we will go to, we've already selected shard 3, right? Shard 2. So select shard 2, move to the location here and press I, and then drag it down so it's out of the scene. Then 430 plus 15 frames will bring us to 445, right? So we'll move to frame 445 and then we'll drag this up to around here. So you can see the base is still sitting under the ground. So now we've got like these, that doesn't look quite right, does it? So this one's okay. Let's think about this. Let's go back to this 430 frame, the first frame. Let's try and move it to the side a bit here. That's what I want it to come out at an angle like this, right? So it's going in this direction, not straight up. So we have to go to that 4 frame 30 and shift it to the side a bit. So when it animates, it's moving at that trajectory, at that angle. So I want these like spikes to be almost like popping out of the ground, almost, think of it that way. So we're on frame 430 here to 445. So we're going to go to frame 440, this one, and we'll click on, which one have we got here? So shard 1. So let's click on shard 1. We'll move to the location here. We'll press the letter I, and then we'll drag it down. And we want to rotate this one around the other way, right? So let's press R to rotate it on the Y-axis, R and Y, and we're going to rotate it this way. And then probably what we want to do is press, in fact we can probably do this here, right? So let's bring, on the Y-axis location, we want to bring it forward to around here. Because all these objects will be on the same sort of location. We want to bring this one a bit forward, and then we'll go to frame. Let's see. Let's bring this. Actually, let's go to frame. So plus 15 frames will be 455, right? 455. Here, we'll move to here and press I. Then let's go back to the first frame. Let's drag it down and let's move it to the left a little bit. So almost you can imagine these, like, what we would call them, these shards are going to pop out of the floor like this, like almost like daggers or something. So we've done shard 1, 2, 3. Let's do shard 4, and then finally we'll do shard 5. So they're a bit random, but that's what we want. We don't want it to be like in a sequence or anything. So we'll click on this one. This one's a bit shorter. So we're on frame. Let's go back to number 3. Number 3. Let's see. Number 2. Number 1. So number 1 finished on frame 455. So we want 450 here. 450. Click on shard number 4. Let's move our mouse cursor here, press I. Then we want to rotate on the Y-axis, right? So press R and then Y, and we're going to rotate this one this direction, something like this. And then 450 plus 15 frames takes us to 465. And then we'll move here and press the letter I again. This time we'll go back to the first frame, 451. We'll drag it down, and we want to drag this one to the right here. And it's too high up, so let's, on this 465 frame, we want to drag it down so that the base of it is under the floor. 465 minus the, where are we, 460, right? So on frame, actually, yeah, on frame 460, we want to click on the shard number 5, and we'll move our mouse cursor here, press the letter I. Let's go 460 plus 15 frames is 475 here. Then we'll move back here and press the letter I, and we'll go back to the first frame here, 460. We'll drag it down. Really, we want this to be going at an angle, right? So let's press Ctrl Z. Let's press Ctrl Z one more time to undo, and then one more time to undo again. Now we're back to just the original first keyframe, and we want to rotate it before we animate it. So let's press R then Y, and we rotate it at this sort of angle. And we might bring this one a little bit forward, just a little bit, something like this. And then we'll move to frame 475. We'll press I here to insert keyframes. We'll go back to the first frame. In fact, on 475, we want to drag it down a little bit to here. So it's the base of it is underneath the floor. We'll go to 460 and drag it all the way down, and then drag it much further away to the left. So now we've got this. So this is quite a quick sequence, but what we wanted was these like daggers or these sharp objects getting pushed out of the ground. I think will look quite cool. Then we'll go to ground 2, and that finished on frame 460, right? 460. Let's see, 461. Doesn't matter, 461. On this Z-axis, we've got to decide whether we want to show these or just have them pop out a little bit. The only thing that bothers me is they're all quite similar. So we should be able to fix that a little bit, right? If we went to go into edit mode and then press A twice to unselect everything and click on just this vertex here, then press G to grab it, and then press Z and raise it up. Then go back into object mode, or sorry, go back into object mode. Let's just see. So that one's much taller now, right? Then what we can do is go back into edit mode, click on this one here, press G to grab it, and we'll push it off at an angle like this. We'll click on this one, press G to grab, and we'll make this one a little bit taller, maybe off at a slight angle. So let's just push these off at slight angles. G to grab, we'll push this one this way, G to grab. Maybe we can overlap them slightly, I'm not sure about that. Let's just get this one like here, and click this one, G to grab it, and maybe we'll have this one like here. Now if we move back, we can see they're already showing in the scene. So we'll go back into object mode here, we'll go to this frame, this frame here, and then on the y-axis let's see, that's bringing them forward. We don't want to do that. On the z-axis, we want to bring them under the floor. We'll hit the record button and we'll scrub through this slowly. So those ones will pop out here, here, and then these shards will fly out like this. And what I might do, let's go to this frame here. Let's press F12 to render it. And I think that's going to look okay. And probably these shards here, we can make them slightly different colors. We've got this light sort of purple here, we've got this darker purple, and maybe these ones will be like some sort of blue color, right? Let's have some contrast in there. So we'll click on shard 1, we'll go to the material. You won't see anything in here, so now you can see it, it's just popped up. Or roll your mouse wheel in here, click new. Let's set the transmission to high. Let's bring down the roughness for it. And then we will click on base color, and we're going to set these to like a blue. And let's turn on screen space refractions. And let's press F12. And in theory, these ones, we should be able to see some color coming through the back of this other object. So all we need to do now is go to shard number 2, roll our little mouse wheel here, and select material 4, shard number 3, select material number 4, shard number 4, select material number 4 here, and then do the same for shard number 5. That's it. We should now have this little sequence done at the end. Took a bit of time to do this and sit down and figure it all out, but without effort, you know, it's not going to look very good. Let's go to File, Save. Normally it's wise to get to this end frame and press F12 to see what it looks like. And I think that's going to look pretty cool. All of these like shards will pop out. I want to put something in the background here, so I'm not sure what we're going to do. Maybe some sort of spherical object or something. And then we want some, we're probably going to animate the camera and raise it up a little bit and look down towards the shards. And then we'll have some sort of fluid dynamic coming out of the floor. So some sort of water coming out, some metal or sort of water stuff coming out. And then we'll animate our text. And I think we'll do some other things as well. I think we'll experiment with this and see what we can do. So that's the end of this part of the tutorial. We should probably just give it one little playthrough. Let's go to the first frame and we'll zoom in with our mouse wheel. And we just make sure you press 0 on your keyboard so you see what the camera sees. This is roughly what the camera is going to be seeing here now, right? And we'll click play. Let's go back to the first frame. Sometimes when you click play, you end up clicking this one here. That's playing it backwards, so make sure you click the front one here. And we'll play forward. And in theory, what we should really do is pause this, go back to the first frame, and turn the eye back on our background. Let's turn that back on. Let's go to File, Save, then play it. Yeah, I think that's going to look pretty good. I think that's going to look pretty good. So I think in the next video, we'll focus on this fluid dynamic. Get this water flowing out from the ground here, like it's just coming out of the ground for whatever reason. And then we'll probably get some text in there and try and animate our text. And I think what we might do is some sort of animation on the text, some nice animation sequence. We might use something from a previous tutorial and try and implement that in this video as well. And then we'll experiment with the camera focus. In fact, what we'll do on the first frame, just so that we remind ourselves on the next tutorial, we'll go to frame 1 here, frame 1. We're going to go to the camera and we're going to hit the record button. So let's make sure we're on frame 1. You can normally click here to get to frame 1, right? Frame 1. We will then, on the camera, we're going to go to the camera settings here. And let's see, what do we want to do? We want to click here on render and click depth of field here. Tick this off. And then we'll go to the camera settings here. And we'll expand this depth of field, and then the focal distance, we're going to press the letter I on this focal distance. And then on this frame here, let's see, maybe this frame here, frame 38, we're going to press the letter I again. And on frame 38, we're going to set the focal distance to around 0.3. We can experiment and test this afterwards. And then on the first frame, going to set it to like 0.04. So as we scrub across here, it's going to give focus. So it's going to be blurred out, then it's going to focus in, and then start the animation sequence. So let's hit the record button, and we'll press the space bar to play this sequence. We'll watch it once. So it's going to like focus in, and then it's going to start moving through this scene. And in theory, when we render this, this should be moving a lot quicker because we're going to run it at 60 frames a second. Right now it's playing at 24 frames, I think. So let's pause this and go back one to the beginning of the frame. I don't know if we can do this in Blender, but let's try. Let's go to the output and set the frame rate to 60 frames a second, 60. And then we'll click play. I don't know if it will play at 60 frames. Yeah, it will. So you can imagine this is what it's going to be like when we finally animate it. Like this. It'll be running much quicker at 60 frames a second. So I think the problem there is this blur is too quick, right? So let's go to frame 38. We'll hit the record button and we'll go to the blur. Let's bring this one down. We'll set it to like 0.4. And then probably around, let's say about here, right? On frame 110, we'll press the letter I here. So make sure the record button is on. Frame 110, we'll press the letter I here. And we'll set this back to 0.3, right? I think it was 0.3. Let's hit the record button. Now it's going to stay blurred for a little bit longer. And I think that'll be better. Let's press spacebar. Now we can see. I think that's it for now. That's probably all we're going to do in this part of the tutorial. In the next part, I really want to try and get some something working with this this ground here. Put some sort of fluid dynamic in there, and maybe we'll animate this text as well in that tutorial. And then we'll be very close to finishing. And maybe we'll do a camera blur at the very end, but it's worth doing that after we've done the rest of the animation sequence. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this part of the tutorial. Let's just go to File, Save, and I look forward to seeing you in the next part.